Schmockey, as a matter of fact. I remember spending most of the time on the seat of my pants. So live to the Winnipeg Arena and Schmockey Night.
It is not hockey night in Canada. It's Schmockey night in Canada. We're warming up for Schmockey next week, Saturday night at the arena. We will introduce the team to you very quickly here, folks. Coming over on the right-hand side, familiar voice from radio.
Well, hi, I'm Mario LeSchmock.
Mario LeSchmock. Who else do we have here?
Oh, Wayne Schmocky.
Wayne Schmock. Good to meet you, Wayne.
Nice to meet you.
How's that lovely wife of yours?
Fantastic.
Great. All right, and the little baby?
Great.
I saw you guys on that David Foster Christmas special. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, and who else do we have here?
Dale Schmocky Chuck. Winnipeg Jets, thank you.
Dale Schmocky Chuck.
Well, I think it was 1953. Pardon me, 1953. Fellows that got together, fellows like Ken Babb, Ron O'Donovan, the gentleman from the March of Dimes, and his was Ted Birch, and Ken Babb from CKRC. They got together and they were looking at trying to find something for the March of Dimes to raise some funds. And they got together at Mr. Chipman's office, Mr. Chipman Sr., and they were having a get-together there, and they said, well, what can we do to raise money for the March of Dimes? And somebody said, well, what about hockey? And somebody said, oh, hockey, Schmocky. There it was. That's how it began.
It was the fall of 1952. Winnipeggers were still getting over the aftershock of the Great Flood of 1950 when they found they had something new and far more devastating to contend with, the outbreak of polio. It was a disease that would leave many people crippled the rest of their lives. Something had to be done. A cure had to be found, but money was needed.
Volunteers did whatever they could, but it seemed as though it was never enough. The big organization back then was the March of Dimes. Someone decided to alert the media, and that's when a few people from local radio and TV stations and the newspapers got together and decided to put on a show to raise money for the March of Dimes.
But what are we going to do, someone asked.
Let's have a hockey game, piped up one man.
Hockey, Schmocky.
Actually, Schmockey Night was an opportunity for the media to help of SMD, the Society for Manitobans with Disabilities, which we thought and was near and dear to everyone in the media at that time. And so we thought, well, we got to get something going, and a committee was formed, and they decided, okay, we're going to make a night's entertainment. We're going to get the Winnipeg Arena. We're going to have a real special event. And we wanted to draw as much attention as we could to for the SMD, for the Society for Manitobans with Disabilities. And so we got our heads all together with the committee, and we decided we got to plan a special night of entertainment. And we can get the media people is not a problem, because all of the television, radio stations, we put together a team. All of the print media, Free Press, Tribune, later The Sun, and of course all of the weeklies too, all participated. And they formed their team. And we were to play each other in an actual hockey game.
I just started in the journalism business in '85, and that was May '85. And by the fall, I'd already been roped into Schmockey Night, which of course, coming from Ontario, I had never heard about. So I came in literally ground zero, had no idea. And you get into the boardroom, as at the Viscount Gort was where we met those days, and you find the people that you were competing against on a daily basis for the headlines, suddenly we're sitting next to you and we're all working on this great cause to help the children and adults living with disabilities in Winnipeg and Manitoba. So that was pretty cool.
Well, I was with CJOB from 1977 to 1991, so it would be in the beginning of those, the late 70s somehow that I just ended up, it's what the media did as part of, you know, their involvement in raising money for what used to be the March of Dimes. And I don't know, I just volunteered, ended up down there, and because of my theater history and my performance stuff, I just ended up heavily involved and ended up short story becoming gag committee chairman for many years, which meant you were heavily involved in writing the skits and then pretty much producing the gags that happened all throughout the show.
It's a blend of local media, and you won't find this in too many other major cities, where competitive people from different media outlets work together in one common cause for that one night.
They heard that Schmockey Night is going bananas, and they've come here to collect all of the bananas, and we can't let them have the bananas.
I get together with all the crazy media people, and they all act nuts on Schmockey Night, and it's just a lot of fun. And besides, it's, you know, it's helping a good cause.
In those days, and we're talking, you know, because Schmockey went on for, I think, 50 years. And in those early days, the media, like even through the press club, were all part and parcel. They knew each other. And of course, something like this, it was a project that everyone had a lot of fun with. We even had our sweaters that said Schmockey on them and so on.
We'll say, I'm with the Winnipeg Free Press now. Back in the day, I was the Winnipeg Sun representative on Schmockey Night committee, and we had each of the people around the table were all representatives of each of the media outlets who were helping out. But somewhere around that table, as our secretary, was Barb. Oh, thank you. That she was phenomenal, and she came from SMD, and she was the representative, and she was there every single meeting. She was the person who was there. She was the voice of SMD for us, and she told us exactly where the dollars were going to go to once it got to them. I was 24 at the time and had encountered some people living with disabilities, but I was there mostly as a reporter who wanted to help the cause. The irony is, from Schmockey and all the people I met both around the media, but SMD itself, that about 10 years later, I had a child born with living with disabilities, and suddenly I knew what the years that I'd been with Schmockey and what the other years of people had been with Schmockey, what the dollars actually meant to people. That saying it just, my hat's off to the committee I served with and committees before that and a few since, that they really did a lot of good for the children and adults with disabilities, because unfortunately, government can't pay for it all. And at the time, Schmockey Night was the biggest fundraiser annually for SMD. That I know when we were talking about shutting it down, SMD were certainly wiping tears from their eyes, because they realized, oh, how are we going to replace such an entity? They've done a great job since, but I don't think anybody's ever filled the void that Schmockey left when we folded our tents.
We just focused so much on getting the show put on and we knew that it was all for a great cause, and in this case, the SMD. I don't think we had, there wasn't a call to put a lot of thought into that aspect of it. It was just work that had to be done, a charity where the media who in the city for, on and off it varied in degrees, but the competition between stations and the rivalries and the, you know, you couldn't have your voice heard on another station and everything. That all got dropped to come together and do something as a team for a great cause. So that was a great thing to be able to work with all those other media people in town with all the defenses down and just all being part of a team that is a Winnipeg media team that was doing some good in the community. And that about sums up, I think, how everybody felt working with it. It just felt good to be doing something worthwhile for the community.
Which is the Society for Manitobans with Disabilities.
Right on.
Is that right?
Right.
I know, because I've been there before.
Yes,
I've been there before.
Yes, you have.
And great cause. That's what this is. Schmockey. That's what the cause is. And maybe tell us just a little bit about it.
Well, where the money's going this year?
Yes.
Schmockey money this year is going to the preschool computer program and to our employment preparation center. The preschool computer program helps children with physical disabilities to learn computer skills at an early age and gives them a head start when they get into school. And our Employment Preparation Center helps adults seeking employment in training on the job and job experience programs.
So I guess, gang, we would say that this is a very good cause, would you say? Yeah! And definitely worth coming out to Schmockey Night next Saturday night. That's 1 week from tonight.
Winnipeg was and still is. If there's a need, fill it. If you can help somebody, help them. And that's a good general attitude, I think. And that was what we started out to do. We wanted to help the SMD with recognition, things that they needed. And the other thing was everybody contributed totally. There was no cost for anything. Air Canada, Bearskin Airlines, it didn't matter, hotels, dear old Art Chipman and Walter Bennett and people like that would help pick up tabs, you know, to make sure everything was right. The hotels would give us rooms and suites for our special visitors. And it was just the way things came together. And Winnipeg was a giving place, and I believe it still is.
We got George here. George wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, we've had a great deal of fun tonight. And of course, all of the activities with all of the media that get together for this annual event, the 38th annual event, and it's a very special night for us. No other city across Canada has the media get together to raise funds. Now, it all started from the March of Dimes 38 years ago when they collected dimes. Now, we need you to help us and have a terrific evening with all the family, and please come down. We've got a terrific show for you, and we look forward to seeing you there. And thank you very much, Kevin.
George, my pleasure. And it's good to be a part of Schmockey this year.
I was just one of many. You know, you have over-exaggerated because it was a team effort. And we had lots of good people that we worked with and had some fun with. And over the years, we knew it was a highlight in January. Everyone was going to go to Schmockey. And so the creativeness, because you had producers, directors, you had the makeup people, you had people on air, all contributing, and both from radio and television and print. And we even had some people from the real estate areas helping us out and so on. And they all added to the fact to say, okay, but you get like Tom Ashmore, people like that, Jim Coghill, the writers and all, Marianne Smith, the writers and all that wrote the fun aspect of the activity. And of course, at the meetings, everyone would say, well, why don't we do that? No, well, we can't do that because of this, you know. But certainly, I was just one of many, but we enjoyed it thoroughly. And I think it was done in a very tasteful way. And that's why the politicians, Mayor Norrie, former Lieutenant Governor Pearl McGonigal, they were always there and always supportive. And again, it was fun, and it was a good thing. And when the kids went home, they were laughing and joking, and they had a wonderful time.
Thank you, sir. And now, His Worship, Mayor Bill Norrie. I'll call you Bill at Schmockey Night. Would that be all right, Bill?
That's what you should call me. Lots of people call me different things than that, Bob. Gee, it's great to be here with His Honor, Bud Jobin. And you know, Bud, we're being towered over a little by this Blue Bomber tonight, but isn't that great, eh? We don't get that opportunity all the time. You know, I want to say thanks to all the media for their efforts on behalf of the Society. A great turnout tonight, and last week at Polo Park, I had the privilege of declaring all last week Schmockey Week in Winnipeg, and this fantastic turnout tonight is evidence that Winnipeg is really supportive of the efforts of the media, and His Honor and I are really pleased to be here. What are we going to do, Bob, for an official opening? I think we should make it something special tonight, eh?
Well,
it's a night of media madness, but we can't forget the friends of the media. Over the last 34 years, many different groups and organizations have chipped in and volunteered their time for this worthy cause. Some of the favorites include the Shriners with their marching band and cartoon comedians, the Blue Brigade, skating clubs, and of course, the Bombers.
He'd go to the Bombers and say, we're doing Schmockey Night, you know, we're skating and all that sort of thing. And you had to warn the fellas to say, look, it's just a game, you know, they're very competitive.
Dave Richardson drops the ball and we're in business. Yeah, this is a Blue Bomber game. Hey, watch it, Leo. The media is on the attack. Johnny Bump retreating in there. A pass to Ezerins. Ezerins barely got it to the blue line. It's still in. Here goes Dawkins. Get after it. Whoops. Score!
Well, we wanted to have some fun. To start off with, of course, everyone was serious because you have the Bombers playing the media, or the politicians playing the media, you know, or the Bombers playing Saskatchewan and then Edmonton. Well, they're playing for real, so you have to be very careful. And then they said, no, we'll lighten things up, but I can still picture some of the Bombers who had never been on skates before, and they're bringing them out and helping them get over. I mean, that started the fun going on and so on. And then, of course, the president or the chair always got hit with a pie at the end of, or near the end of the time. And of course, we had comedians like Len Andre, and you know, all those people were terrific. The fun, it was made to have fun for the children, and of course the adults enjoyed it too. And the competitiveness, they can see their favorite media type doing some unusual things, you know, and having some fun, etc. And that's what it was meant to be. And it certainly, I think, achieved that. And as the time went on, you had different ones, like, you know, even Tommy Hunter, although he didn't get a pie, but he was willing to sing and have some fun, etc. Don Herron was another one that, you know, that comedian and so on that did very well. But the people from the States, like Fame and you know, with Tony O'Dell and people like that, they couldn't get over what was happening. And they readily came up, and through the good graces of CBC, we were able to bring them in, and of course treat them very nicely. And they loved Winnipeg, and they loved the people that were here. And again, they were close by. They were at the Viscount Gort, across from the arena, literally. And we would have a little get together after to thank them. And so it was, I think, a great success, and one of the plus sides in the memories of Winnipeg.
Fastest time, and we decided to start with the beef first. So Suet Sam Don Curtin from CKY, 322 pounds of whippy blue steel. On second thought, a couple hours might do the trick. Okay, Suet, you're on, go.
Case of, we were there to entertain. I mean, we were not hockey players. I mean, after all, let's face it, so most of us could hardly skate. So we just had a good time getting together, doing anything crazy that we could. In fact, I'll never forget one, we also had to have a lot of special entertainment things going on between periods, before, after, during. Musicians from all over came to help us. Everybody joined in, and one year, Arvel Gray, who was the news anchor at CBC, a beautiful lady, and Sylvia Kuzik from CKY, also a beautiful lady, and I had a beard at the time, and I was cast as the third one, and I was in drag with a special hair thing and all of those. But we were all actually dressed, the can-can dancers. We were can-can dancers. And there we were, the three of us, out there on a carpet, trying to do the can-can. And of course, with the two ladies, it was obvious. And of course, I was in the middle with my beard and the whole bit. And away we went, did our thing, and it brought down the house. And of course, you end up with your bums around, you know, bums up and so on. And that was the dance. But it went over so well and amazing. But here, definitely the thorn between two roses, no question.
But it was terrific because we had all sorts of people from the media, in front of the cameras and microphones and behind that helped out with makeup, with props and all that sort of thing. The Bombers were terrific. And of course, the leaders of the Bombers, one that comes to mind is Paul Robson. You know, we even would meet at the blue and gold room with about 25 or 30 of us as we were gearing up for Schmucky. It was terrific. So, you know, that's part and parcel. There's a lot of people, if you went around the province, there's still a lot that remember part of Schmucky or were part of it. The Bomberettes, in those days, they put on skates, and Donna Fiella was sort of their trainer and had them doing routines on the ice. In addition to that, we had people from the Winnipeg Winter Club skating and so on. So it was fantastic. And of course, the different ones like Laurie Mustard, Ken Babb. I mean, you go down the list, Lloyd Robertson, you know, all of those people were part and parcel and willing to help and have some fun.
I was there from, let's say, mid 80s to the late 80s, and what we found was we had a really great concept. It got people into the Winnipeg Arena. They saw a show for 2 hours. It was cheap, so it was nice family entertainment. But as the years went by, this was sort of I hate to say that the late 80s was this sort of era when it was a more sort of sweet era, but because it's not that long ago to me, but this was when just the start of the Sesame Street Lives, and then after that Disney on Ice came. When Schmocky was there for decades, there really was no big show you could take your kids to. You could take them to the once every 2-3 year Disney movie. You could take them to a Jets game or something like that, but there was no real big entertainment thing. Schmocky was it for the families. It was also for a great cause. But when these other shows started coming in, at first we debated, do we want to create Schmockey Night as kind of the sponsor of Sesame Street Live and do that? But that sort of defeated the whole idea of Schmocky. So we could see by the late 80s, the writings on the wall that this is not going to last much longer. And to try competing against that for as long as we could, we were trying to make it more professional. Mind you, that sort of fell apart when the Schmocky game itself came around, but that's another story in itself. The sort of the first half when we had a lot of young American entertainers come in, yeah, we were trying to put on a professional comedy show type thing.
I must say that many of the stars that we had on hand came through the good graces of CBC, and they bent over backwards. But from all of the other media, the senior managers, the people that were in charge knew that this was a good thing. And even some of those people came out and said, or they said, go ahead, you know, this is part and parcel. We think it's important to our community and to our province. And so therefore, it was not a problem at all. And even to this day, when many of the media cross paths, the ones that are retired and all that, they still reminisce and they give each other a big hug because, you know, part of that was the learning and sharing of that great experience.
Well, I think essentially, the tickets were only, I think, $1 a piece or something. And we billed it as the best family entertainment that you could get at a reasonable price. So, you know, a family of 5 could come for $5. They're in and could do and see and participate in the actions because we had a lot of running gags. You know, there'd be a couple of clowns chasing each other and one with the bucket and whoa, and instead of water, it turned out to be confetti, you know, and stuff like that. And we had a lot of that sort of thing that was happening.
Well, it was so much fun to create those gags because, you know, it was a huge theater. The Winnipeg Arena was, what an opportunity, what a, you know, to create things that had to be big enough on ice to be enjoyed by everybody in as high up in the stands as sometimes they might go, and still be able to see enough of the gag to get it. So you couldn't be really subtle. It had to be all the dialogue, the physical movement, everything had to be big, like vaudeville, that kind of thing. And of course, it was a fabulous opportunity for creative people because the imagination's the limit, and you just came up with these sort of scenarios, vignettes that went in between the different things going on at Schmockey Night as part of the main features, and then you'd tie them all together with a running gag for the night. And so a theme could be, whatever the theme was for the year, you'd probably try and tie it into that. But it was fabulous. It was fun. Don Herron and Catherine McKinnon were here. Don Herron was, they were both big stars. And they were the kind of people we created, instead of putting a pie in their face, I said, let's make a pie big enough to throw them both into if we need to. So we made a big pie that had to be towed by ropes across the ice. And Catherine McKinnon got caught between the ropes. And they said, Laura, what do we do? What do we do? I said, push her in it and just get it off the ice. So in she went into this giant pie. I don't know whether she enjoyed it all that much, but I think she did. She was in with the spirit of the moment.
Very well. Now, we had lots of terrific guests. People like Catherine McKinnon, Tommy Hunter, the cast from Fame, and of course, Carol Burnett's daughter was on hand, Carrie. And they were part and parcel, and they enjoyed everything. They had a lot of fun, and they knew it was a fun activity. Mad Dog Vachon, another comes to mind. So there's so many good things that happened. But the other thing is that it was an evening where we all got together with all the kids. It didn't cost an arm and a leg, and we raised some money for a very needy cause.
Oh, that's still, for me, Schmockey Night, the most unforgettable year, because I was Gag Committee Chairman. And I'll try and make a semi-long story as short as I possibly can. I convinced my friend Jim Ingebrigtsen to, because it's a rivalry between the media and the football team, right? So we had reps for to increase the competition and set it up for the arena, make it more fun for the people in attendance. We would set up stuff in advance, the rivalry thing. And so this time we had, on the football team, there was Paul Robson and Chris Walby out representing the football team. And then on the other side, I had John Ferguson, Fergie, the Jets, but he was dressed up as a Dr. X masked marauder or something. You couldn't tell what he was. And Mad Dog Vachon as our ringer that was going to help the media team finally win a Schmockey game.
As Schmockey 84 returns, it's the broomball game between Mad Dog Robson and the Blue Bombers versus Mad Dog Vachon and the media team. Gentlemen, how did you both get the same name?
Well, I was the first Mad Dog, and we're going to beat the media team again in 84.
What are you talking about? I was the first dog to be called Mad Dog. What are you talking about?
Well, we beat the media every year at Schmockey Night.
Looks like it's going to be a good night. Dumb as a January 21st, the arena. Who'd want a stupid name like Mad Dog anyway?
I got them arguing, and I sent Jim out, and I promised him he wouldn't get hurt. We'd set it up so he'd be fine, and he's going, I don't know. So he went out, and they were arguing. He had to get between them and go, guys, this is a family show. Look around. Look at the people. They're here to have fun. This isn't about arguing, and, it's just keeping it a... And so then the Walby Mad Dog thing was to go, to start saying, like Walby would say, I'll tell you what I'm going to do to you out in the ice, Mad Dog. Here's what I'm going to do. And then do a sort of a play, fun, but looking real enough to beat Ingebrigtsen up. And then Mad Dog, the same thing, to do something to Ingebrigtsen. So I said, as soon as it looks like you've been beaten up enough by both guys, you drop to the ice, you're mortally wounded, and we bring two big shovels and we push you across the ice, right across the ice and out. And you're done, and you're not hurt, everything's fine. But Walby and Mad Dog, try and control that. So I'm watching over the boards, promising that Jimmy wouldn't get hurt. And Mad Dog says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do something else. And he goes, oh no, when Jimmy goes down on the ice, he says, and then, Jim thought it was over. He says, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one of these. And he pretends to kick Jim in the head. But he didn't have sticky sole shoes on, and his left planted foot slipped. So his right foot actually kicked Jim right in the head, whose head went, and I went, oh no, I promised, no, this is not good. And Wallaby, not to be outdone, says, oh yeah? Well, I'll show you what I'm gonna do. And he picks Jim up like by one hand. This is not supposed to happen. Jim is not a rag doll, but he is in Wallaby's hands. And Wallaby just put him over his shoulder on the small of Jim's back, legs out here, head and body hanging off that, and jumped up and down with his hand on Jim's stomach, Jim breaking in half this way. And it turns out he had a bad back. So now he throws him down on the ice. Now Jim really is dead and in pain and suffering and agony. And I'm trying not to laugh over the boards, but it just was so hilarious what they did. But Jim was dead, so I got the shovels, which we needed now, pushed him across the ice and in, and he was underneath in one of the empty rooms underneath the stands with John Ferguson, who had never been out on the ice running around in these things before without skates on. He's walking around one side of the room, this Dr. X thing with he's got all these muscles in here, the groin muscles, are stretched so badly he can hardly walk, and he's in agony. And Ingebrigtsen's lying on the thing going, you told me I wouldn't get hurt. You told me I wouldn't get hurt. I'm in agony, jeez. And he was, so of course I apologize, but that's showbiz.
Fun. We had a lot of fun. We had the odd beer here and there, but it wasn't overly done at all. But you know, to pull tricks on one another, like Laurie Mustard and and Jim Ingebrigtsen and people like that, they're wonderful people that sort of have that spark of entertainment with them, and so you had fun that way. People like Arvell Gray, Murray Parker, all of those people were terrific, and just some of the guests that came in, they too got into the swing of things, and had a wonderful time. And when we had our wind-up, we had a wind-up again. We were at the Viscount Gort. Marinori was on hand, and we had sort of rounded out the 50 years and had a great time.
Oh, well, Len Andre, certainly, he's the name. If there was a Mr. Schmockey, Len would probably be Mr. Len Schmockey. He could be that he was the one. He spent decades there. He had pies in his face. He acted. He did everything. That say if Schmockey was still going on, Schmockey would very much miss him today. But to say there were other people that did the role as well, and to a great extent it was a role that the people we had here, they were the ones who were here, so we could give them the script days in advance, not weeks, days in advance, and they would learn it. The hired guns that we brought in, that they were given a script, say, probably at most the day before, and they had to learn it really fast. So we kept their parts very, very small to do it. So the hosts, in a sense, were the hosts, but they were more than the hosts. They were a great part of the show. My favorite act was, and I didn't see too much of it because I was mostly behind the scenes, but I did pop my head out, Alyssa Milano, that she was very much, it was her first year on a show. I can't even remember the name of the show she started off, but I do know she's gone on to some great things. She was starring in Charmed, and certainly even just recently, Time Magazine noted her that she's the one that came up with #MeToo, which, yeah, that 20, 30 years later, she's made quite a name for herself. But back in the day, she would have been one of the cheap young actors or actresses back then that we would have been looking for to basically come all the way to Winnipeg, come there the day before, have a script popped in front of them, and just basically learn it really fast and go from there. The hardest thing was, okay, who are we going to get in as a guest star? And we'd go to various agency companies, and we'd get a choice of who we could have for the dollars we could spend, because the whole thing was a fundraiser for the kids and adults with Society for Manitoba with Disabilities. The more we paid for a performer, the less would go to the kids and adults. So we were very, very cognizant about that. So yeah, that I sort of vaguely, back of my mind, recall that, yeah, at one point we thought, oh, well, we could just bring in the costumes for who would know that it could be, I could be in one of them that nobody would know. But then we found pretty fast that no, the whole thing, it's all licensed and everything, that you go to an agency company and you pay the dollars and they bring you the product. And in this case, it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it was the whole package. It was all 4 of their costumes with an actor on the inside. Yeah, that it all had to be professionals and everything. That I'm sure that we probably, not only did we have the Winnipeg firefighters monitor it, we would have had the Winnipeg Arena would have had their own people that would have helped out. And the nice thing about it all is that it sort of came with the arena package and everything, that we could go to the firefighters, tell them what it was for, who was benefiting, and they would basically join in for free as volunteers and bring their expertise. The Winnipeg Arena, we just said, we want the arena for this night, that you'll get X amount for the ticket sales, and after that, we had the whole arena, and they would help out where they could, and that would be one area where it helped, because in the end, we didn't want to kill any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That would not have been family entertainment.
I have to credit the family of media and some of the outside groups like the Bombers that dedicated their time and effort in that way. They say, okay, it's a good project. And with all the media supporting it, and then the politicians as well, you know, because if you can get the arena for very little cost, then the rest of the money goes towards the projects for SMD and so on. And of course, these are people, with the SMD, we had those people on hand, we had the people from March of Dimes and so on, and it's a family thing. And even though it's a big city, or it was at that time too, everyone is part and parcel. So, you know, therefore, I credit, you know, it's a combination. The enthusiasm, the drive, and of course, when it's 40 below and you're in January and you're going to Schmockey Night, you know, and you're going to have some fun, that's what it's all about.
The times have changed. The media, people have changed. The personalities have changed. To try and dig out people and bring in all of that a production like that today would probably cost $100,000 or $200,000 just to put together. And there isn't that kind of giving that you can put together anymore. It's just a changing time, but it served its purpose as long as it did go. It was there to provide proper attention for SMD and to make sure that there was all kinds of publicity for them and things that happened. And we did help raise a whole lot of money over the years. You know, at $1 a ticket, and it took quite a few years, but the prices, I remember the great debate when we were going to raise it up to maybe $2. And how should we do that? Because we wanted it to be a family event and make it as cheap as possible so the family could attend. But today, I think it would have a tough way to go. It would have to be a top flight production. And we actually had top flight people putting these things all together, but nobody charged. And today, I'm afraid the dollar is a very important thing.
With Mark, with Chipman and Mark and that group, I know that they support a great number of things. It's a possibility, but the problem now is when you, let's say that he invited us to go to the arena, you know, the $5 ticket, you know, is really rather tough. It's not out of the question, you know, that there might be something happening, but similarly in going around to all the media has dramatically changed. And for, you know, the change of people and activities going on and how they cover this, that, and the other. So it may be a little more difficult. But years ago, again, we weren't facing those dilemmas. I think it's worthwhile, you know, thinking about, and there might be something else that might be able to be generated, because certainly we still have terrific broadcasters here, and we have terrific people that want to help. You know, and then going down the list of names, you know, there are literally a couple of hundred that come to mind right off the bat, you know. You were right about saying it was tried in a few other locations, because people came in from various locations, Calgary and Regina and even Toronto, and asked, what are we doing? How are we doing this? And I think a couple of places tried it, but it didn't quite work. And I don't know, again, the family, you know, that started it off, when you look at the Ken Babbs, the Cliff Gardners, and Mr. Chipman Sr., the people that are, you know, they're the ones everyone looked up to say, these are fine people. And they're good Winnipeggers, as everyone who can remember them can attest. And that's how, you know, it spun off. And then again, I can't get over the fact that with all the media, that, you know, a couple of calls here and there. Now, that didn't take away from the way they were covering news and special events. But this was a community event that the senior people at these outlets, you know, Free Press and Tribune in those days and so on, said, yes, we want to do that.
Let's give the Schmockey Committee an excellent hand. And also, we'll give them a hand. 15,000 wonderful people to Schmockey Night, 1981. Ray St. Germain, take us home. Good night, all, and thank you. Hey. Hey, hey, hey.